Hello, my name's Jack Mills and I'm a sound designer. I've worked on projects such as Guitar Hero, The Division 2, South Park, Atomega, and a few others. This video is the second part of a Rebuild and Redesign series, and today I'll be covering the finding, recording, and designing of sounds. There are 4 topics I'd like to cover: finding materials, capturing the performance, organizing and editing sounds, and linear sound design approaches. Each section has a huge impact on the final result, so making even small improvements at each one of these stages can pay dividends in the long run. As an example, I'm going through the creation of a gravel footstep library, as well as options for the uses of this construction kit library. Finding materials to record is an art in itself, let alone the recording and designing of these materials. Make sure to have a plan of what to collect, ask for any permission where necessary, and bring more equipment than you need. It does feel a little odd to pick up some things, but try not to feel too crazy when looking for good quality materials. For my library, I made sure to pick a range of gravel materials in hopes to mix and match them and get as much variation out of them as possible. I also knew I was going to be recording this in a Foley box, or what I deemed a Foley box. They're a great way of holding materials, and I was able to create realistic textures with little effort. I found that when capturing Foley performances, there are principles that when followed can almost guarantee usable assets. Planning your recording sessions, recording more than necessary, monitoring your recording levels, and voice tagging your performance will yield the best results. So before recording, create a cue sheet. Categorize what material you'll be using, what action you'll perform, what speed you'll move. Basically anything that would be used to describe the asset can essentially be a changeable parameter for recording it. But track these in a cue sheet, and you can use this information to help you later on. So follow those basic principles while adhering to your cue sheet, and you'll be helping your future self better use your assets and tag those assets appropriately. Time to edit and organize our raw recordings into usable assets. We can bring in our raw files into Reaper and begin to clean up and process them before exporting and properly labeling our assets. I've opened up a project template and window set I've made to process sound library recordings. This features buses for any isotope RX renderings, raw files, and a to-render library category section. Additionally, I have 15-minute regions for each file type too, which I can use in conjunction with the region render matrix. I've imported my raw recordings, which I've then edited to include what I've deemed usable from the originals. Using a cleanup effects chain, I can then process them and move the resulting renders to the library buses and section in the project. Once all the rendered assets are in the library section, I can use my cue sheet to create a CSV file. Using a custom Reaper script, I can use this CSV file to encode metadata on each one of my rendered assets. My script uses each asset's notes to store this information, and then encodes that upon exporting each individual asset. This saves tons of time, and it means you don't have to go through each individual asset and set its metadata manually. Now we have assets we can use. At this stage, I enjoy using my assets in a sound redesign, and often that leads me to create more sound library assets. I use what I like to call a palette-based approach. This uses different layering and iterative techniques for sound construction. That's usually what leads me to like a more stylized, specific sound library, such as this Plate Armor Footstep sound pack. With this palette method, I like to describe what sounds I'm after in my redesign and label my palette section accordingly, and then find my sounds for those layers. I can then use those layers or ingredients in my palette section for my redesign and not have to worry about sound sourcing during my design stage. Once I'm happy with my redesign, I create iterations to flesh out my sound library. I do this in two ways, either using LKC's Variator or Reactor's S layer. Taking a sound from concept to reality can sometimes seem daunting, from sourcing the material, recording it, organizing and editing it, and then using it and taking it further. But after this point, you'll be left with a lot of assets which you can easily package up after processing and even start sharing. I hope this has been a useful video, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.